Hey, everybody, welcome to the daily update for Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. Happy Hump Day. The Cult. Let me tell you a little story about the Cult. So, they were on their electric tour. They were playing the Long Beach Arena, I believe. And a bunch of buddies and I went to go see them. We got there early, and there was this crazy sound coming from the front of the stage. Like we were at the back and like we heard this just wash of music coming in. We walk in and there's this band just ripping it up. A little band called Guns N' Roses, who nobody had heard about. And I remember at some point during the Cult set, which by the way, the Cult were amazing. Ian Asbury says, I'm not going to do his English accent, right? But he does that, like he's serious thing, like, there's nothing going on in American music today at all except for one band, Guns N' Roses. And we're like, yeah, all right, they were pretty good, but are they going to be that big? Well, they were. Anyway, all right, so what a couple days we've had here today. Let's just go over. Hey, what do you think about this? Working on the old backdrop. Not so bad, huh? Yeah, all right. Let me know your thoughts. Actually, don't let me know your thoughts unless they're good. If they're good, if you want to say, Brian, I love that background, give me your thoughts. If you want to go, I don't think you should have the picture of you when you played football in high school, then just keep your thoughts yourself. All right. We've got some earnings coming up after the close. Oh, Google. Well, I guess my lotto calls are zeros. Well, that's interesting. We'll get back to that in a second. So let's, so I guess it'd be better if you could see that my lotto calls were zero, right? All right. So today's action, eerily similar to yesterday's action. Let's get the cult out of here. In that, you know, after we lost that little gap up, we sold off, kind of recovered, and people thought, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe we're going to start going higher after the sell off. And then we see the 20 come in and it becomes the limiter all day long. We actually break below yesterday's low, base a little bit here, and then break back above it and actually start ramping in the last hour, hour and a half. And, that worked until just the last 10 minutes. Whereas yesterday we went all the way up into the close pretty much. So similar to yesterday's action, buyers still stepping in, not really letting things go. Different scenario in the Qs. Qs were um, not able to even get back above yesterday's low. So still are the weakest or is the weakest index. You look at the Dow way off of yesterday's low and you look at IWM able to recapture it. So, we still are seeing this weakness in tech and I can only imagine it's going to continue as we have a little bit of a sell-off here. It's interesting. Kind of stopped there for a second. They weren't, yeah, they're supposed to be out now. So I'm going to assume that's live. So the question is, how do you make money? How do you make money on a day like today? Well, there's a number of different ways you can make money on a day like today. Now, obviously, if you were positioned short coming in today, that's one way you can make money. But there's a couple other ways. One is you can obviously day trade, right? You can obviously have other positions that were still profitable long. We'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things you can do, and this kind of jives with this generational wealth project that I've been talking about for the last couple months, is you can do an arbitrage between time frames. So just to refresh everyone's memory, the generational wealth project, I believe there is the potential in the next 3 to 5 years for people to make generational wealth. That's wealth that you pass on from generation to generation. It's so much wealth in this market. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying I think there's the potential here. It's eerily similar to the last 3 to 5 years of the internet bubble, which I was there. So if you're going to do that, we've been talking about strategic ways to get into positions that you think are going to be winners, doing it slowly, doing it over time, doing it in ways to bring your cost basis down. Okay. Today is one of those days when you look for a short-term entry, right? Short-term trade that's part of your long-term strategy, your long-term wealth generation program. Okay. And let's talk about some of these here. It's really weird that Google just stopped there. Let's Let's go over here to the trading room and see if, oh, well, here's why it stopped, because my internet has stopped. And am I even recording? It's a good question. Let's find out. Okay, so my internet was out. That's why it stopped. Google's back up here. Let's go over to the, isn't it funny how you get a sense as a trader? You're like, something's not right here. All right. Okay, so let's go back and talk about how you could have made money today. Well, there's a few ways. First of all, we've been in Apple. So I added Apple to the daily setups list right here on the 23rd of January. I actually bought some Apple shares before the close this day, which I posted in the trading room. Apple made a nice run up here into earnings, based a little bit. Now, I got knocked out after hours after the conference call, but we never took it off the list because it never really violated our rules, and it continued today. And so this thing is up 12% since we added it here, right? So that's a way to make money. And remember, when you're arbitraging short-term cash flow against a long-term portfolio, what you're doing is you're bringing portfolio cost basis down. What I mean by that is, let's say you've got a, I don't know, let's say you've got $1 million portfolio and you lose $50,000 on your long-term positions, but you net 25 on some short-term positions that you cash out, right? Once you're back to even on your long-term positions, you're actually now profitable, right? So you're taking cash in short-term, banking that cash short-term against those long-term positions to take your portfolio cost basis down. And that's something you could have done with Apple today if you'd trimmed a little bit here. Kava. This is one that I just added yesterday on the daily setups list. Gave a beautiful opportunity to get in here. It was up 7.5% today. So Kava, you could have gotten in, right? So here's this first stick. You get this pullback in this area, and then you break back above this opening level. You could have entered there. It even gave you an opportunity to get a late day entry here. You could have got in right here. Whoops. Get rid of that. You could have got in right here. So again, netting some cash flow. Also having the option, because of the way it closed, you could say, well, I'll trim a little bit and hold it overnight because it closed so strong. So that's two ways. Here's another way. OPTX. This is a name that I've been adding since 4.5 here. At one point at the open, it was up 86% from that spot. Now, this is a longer term position. This is something that's either going to go to the moon or to zero. But if you took this position, you could trim it, right? Trim some cash flow, bank it, right? Maybe take part of your position off. How about this? Devon, right? Devon and Oxy. Bought calls in Devon and Oxy, April calls. I think it was last week. At one point today, the Devon calls were up 200%. I think they probably ended the day up about 200%. The Oxy calls up, I think 125% now. Again, I haven't sold any of these because they're April calls, but you could have banked some of these, taking cash in short term against a longer term portfolio that's down a little bit. So there are ways to do this. Is it easy? No. Trading isn't easy, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And these are the sort of things that we're looking to highlight every single day. Different ways, different strategies that work with whatever time frame you're using and working within a general overall strategy, right? So maybe it's a short-term strategy for banking cash, arbitraging against a long-term portfolio. All right, so let's go back here to Google, see if my lotto calls have any chance. Probably not. But that's better for the market for sure. Let's go back here. Yeah, all right, cool. All right, so where are we? Where are we in terms of the indexes after we got that late day buying? Well, let's go through them. If you're watching this on Twitter, you can see the full video by clicking the link in the tweet reply. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can watch the full video by clicking the link in the comments. Okay, so